Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Perry Stone YouTube channel. I'm Perry Stone, and we try to give you information connected to prophecy as it relates to a biblical worldview, and also take insights that we hear and that we know and present them to you to try to educate you and also to assist you and help you in the times in which we're living in. I appreciate literally hundreds of thousands of you out there that have joined our YouTube channel. If you've not done so, I hope that you will subscribe to it. Now, the question I wish to pose to you today is the idea of prepping. Now, most of you have heard this term through the media or especially on social media, and there's many very intelligent economists and other individuals that are sharing information with you of how to be prepared for things that they believe will transpire perhaps this year or early next year, or definitely in the very near future. When I talked about preppers, or I would mention the term, or you would hear the term used, let me say it that way, many years ago, people considered preppers to be very fringe people on the fringe of society who were simply caught up in some kind of conspiracy theory. Some of them were considered anti-government people, and because of this, they were often looked down upon as just an odd group of people that had weird beliefs. Well, I want to tell you that with the coronavirus situation, with cities shutting down, with food banks being overflooded to where they can't even provide food, with the places that provide our food, the meat packing companies and other places shutting down because people are unable to work in those jobs, things have changed quite a bit. I've been keeping up with some of the statistics, and I'm not going to bore you with that, of people that are preparing. Basically, there's three types of people in America. These are three people of three different economic positions. There's the poor, there's the middle class, and then there's the rich. Now, we could say rich and extreme rich, and we could say poor and moderately poor, and we could say middle class and upper middle class, but let's just break it down to those three categories. One of the sad things that breaks my heart is to see the number of people that are doing without, poor people. And of course, our ministry has always been involved. For those of you that don't know it, we have helped people and organizations that we know and trust for many years, both in the United States and outside the United States. And so I'm not going to talk about that other than tell you that people who are poor don't have the ability to prepare the way some others do. Now, the middle class are basically, as long as they have their job and they have their income, they don't think a lot about it. They think mostly it's a doom and gloom message. So most of the people that I've met who are middle class to upper middle class, they try to ignore it as though the problems are eventually going to go away and we're going to get back to normal. But pay attention, if you will, to the rich or the extreme rich, because these are the individuals that have the inside information. These are the individuals that know the bankers. These are the ones that know the inside of what's going to happen. These are the ones that know the Treasury Department people. These are the ones who control the stock market and invest and know what's actually going to happen. We know insider trading is illegal, but can I tell you, it's done all the time, even among politicians. Guess what? But the point I make is simply this. So many of these people are preparing bunkers. So many of them are purchasing dried food. So many of them are investing in gold and silver and moving a lot of their cash out of fiat money, which is paper money, because they believe the value is going to be so declined in the time ahead, or there could actually be a collapse of the system. So let's go back to preparing. Why are people preparing? Well, I want to talk about one specific area, and that is the area of providing food for your family. The coronavirus, we saw something strange. Shortages of toilet paper, of all things. Shortages of things that we take advantage of every single day because there was a run on the system, a run on the stores. There were things that come out of China that were not coming out of China. So we saw what could happen during a pandemic. I have friends of mine that believe, for example, from a theological perspective, that the church will go through either part of or all the tribulation, meaning that based on the apocalypse or the book of Revelation, there's going to be massive food shortages, which according to the vision of John will come at some point. So they're preparing for the tribulation. Now, one of my dear friends, whom I'll not name, but he provides food through a company. We differ on prophetic interpretation, but I will say this, and I've said this to him privately. My purpose of maybe having available dried food would not be based on surviving a tribulation that the Bible predicts is coming. It would be surviving natural disasters. Let me give you an example. There's a New Madrid fault line that runs in the United States. And if the New Madrid fault line ever gave way the way it did in the 1800s, all the railroad bridges and all the bridges that connect this part of the United States to the food supply in the West would be completely destroyed. Therefore, there would be no way except by air travel to get food from the West to the East. Of course, that air travel would be limited because during a major earthquake, for example, like a 7.5 to an 8.5, which could happen, the airport runways would be completely devastated. So it's a smart thing, knowing that that fault line is there, knowing that scientists have said eventually it will give way, to be prepared for several weeks or even several months in the event that something happens, to avoid the panic. Oh, you know what would take place. All the store shelves would remain empty. Truck drivers could not even deliver food because there would be mobs of people with guns trying to hijack the trucks. That already happened previously. So preparing is not a lack of faith. And this is what I want to tell those of you who are believers or you're covenant people in relationship with the Lord. I don't believe preparing is a lack of faith, because Proverbs says the prudent man sees the evil day coming and he plans for it. The Bible also says in Proverbs, the wise man Solomon, go to the ant and study its ways. It prepares food in the winter, knowing winter is going to be a long, long time. The basic needs of life, which are clean water and food for your family to eat and a place of shelter, are necessities. We can't survive without water, we can't survive long without food, and we can't survive the weather because of the cold or the extreme heat without a place to live. These are the three things we focus on: how we live our life, how we trust God, how we believe for Him and with Him, and how we use wisdom in our decisions, how we try our best to stay out of heavy debt, how we try to help those who are in need. But I will say this to you, that in the Old Testament time, Joseph had a dream that Pharaoh gave him, and in the dream it was a 7-year famine coming. Joseph, in wisdom, took 7 good years and prepared, and thus he's called Zephaniah, which means Savior of the world. He literally not only saved the world from destructive famine and complete hunger, he also saved his own family, who later moved to Egypt and hundreds of years later came back to the promised land that today is known as the nation of Israel. So I would say this to you: there's always extremes in anything that people do. Some people go to the far, far, far extreme of trying to survive a nuclear holocaust or some kind of a war. Well, you know, don't fuss at people who do that. That's their opinion. That's totally up to them. So many times we put our noses where they don't even belong. If a person wants to do that and they have the finance to do that, that's fine. But I would also remind you, as we do in our ministry, that there are people who need help. And this is why we have sent income to different places, income even to Bethlehem to help feed the poor families over there, and so many other things that we have done over the years to try to help people. Now, we don't randomly support people. We don't randomly support organizations. We personally have relationships with these people and organizations. But in all of our preparing ourselves, my word to you is always be a help to people who truly are in need. Now, you and I know this for a fact, that there are thousands, perhaps even millions of people living in America who simply milk the system. There are people who can work, who won't work because they get more money not working. There are people that use the system and for their own benefit. You know what? That's their business. And again, if they're deceptive and evil, there's going to be a great judgment one day, and they will answer for that in eternity. I don't spend my mind and my nose sticking in other people's business. That's between them and their Creator. But I do want to say this to all of you who are believers. Never, ever fail to help those in need. Never exalt one ethnic group over another. Never exalt one people group over another. We are all important. We're all created by God. All of us matter in the eyes of God, and especially those who are in need. So in all of your preparing, which is not wrong at all, and I don't believe it's a lack of faith, it's wisdom. But whatever you're doing to prepare, keep in mind while you're preparing to help people who need help. Because Jesus said that one day what we would be judged on would be this: did you clothe the naked? Did you give water to the thirsty? did you help feed the poor? Never forget that the poor will always be among us and always be willing to touch somebody's life in need. That's what the Father in heaven looks at, and that's how you gain great favor with Him, by helping your brother and sister. God bless you. I hope my words have been a help to you. And again, 3 points. Number 1, if you prep, always remember others. Number 2, there's nothing wrong, it's not a lack of faith, to be prepared. And number 3, always pray about what you should do, because that's the bottom line. The Lord knows everything that's going to happen before it ever takes place. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel, and never miss a video by clicking the bell to get the alerts when a new video is posted. This YouTube channel is made possible by your generous donations. So to support our outreach of teaching, visit perrystone.org/YT.